Welcome to session 3 of the Financial Empowerment Series. Thank you everybody for tuning in. I get so many questions and so much engagement. I really appreciate it. This is a joy for me. This is a privilege. Thank you to Pastor Shelley and the leadership team for allowing me the opportunity to speak to everybody and share what God has laid on my heart. So as we move into section 3 or session 3 of this 4-part series, I want to do a quick review because we have talked about a lot of things. So I want to make sure that we understand what we're trying to do here, because remember I said, don't treat this like I'm just coming to Bible study, learning a little bit about finances. Treat it as if somebody sold into you a 4-week investment course. Okay. So goal number 1, this is what we talked about in that first session. Build your investment portfolio with God. And this is based off of Matthew 7:24 through 27, where we talk about if they who build it in vain if you don't build it with the Lord, right? And then step 1, how do you do that? You start with your blueprint that gives you your vision based off of Habakkuk 2:2 through 3. Then you have your foundation, which is faith for us as Christians, Hebrews 11:1. Then you frame it, which is the word, Hebrews 11:3. Then you need a roof, your preservation, your protection. That's wisdom, coming from Proverbs 4:5 through 6. And then lastly, your decor, your decoration, that thing that makes your house, even if you all have the same bedrooms and structure, the thing that makes yours different is that Rhema word, coming from Matthew 25:14 through 30. So we need to remember, one of the other things we talked about last time was make sure that you don't when you are building your portfolio, you're getting that vision and you're assessing the landscape, you don't have any seeds rooted. So you want to uproot any bad thoughts about finances. We did that word cloud last time. A lot of people said confused about finances. They're nervous about it. They don't trust it. They don't understand it. We need to make sure we arrest those thoughts and kill them so that they don't come up and mess with us later. Another thing we talked about was investment strategies. Understand that the word does have investment strategies, and I talked through a couple of them. One was sow generously, according to 2 Corinthians 9:6 through 8. The second is count up the cost, according to Luke 14:28 through 30. The third one was such a time as this, according to Genesis 50:20 and Esther 4:15. And then the fourth one, which is where the rest of the series went, is diversify, according to Ecclesiastes 11:1 through 2, where the writer says, put your investments into 7 or 8 different things because you don't know what evil may come. And what we took from that 8 different things, we married that with Matthew 25:14 through 30, where in the parable of the talents, it talks about how the owner gave 5, 2, and 1 talents, and that's our 8. So we want to make sure we get with Holy Spirit to help us figure out how to break our portfolio into that 5, 2, and 1 that works best for us. So that was the first goal. The second goal, which is where we are sending the sessions 2, 3, and 4, is to learn how to do your own research. After you have learned what your investment portfolio should kind of look like, you have a vision, you have a few steps, but what should go in it? And we can see on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Investopedia, this podcast, that podcast, all these different investment opportunities, but how do you know if that's for you? How do you know what it is? How do you know when you should get in, get out? Is it high? Is it low? All those things. We need to learn how to do our own research. So that's what we've been focusing on. And that comes from Proverbs. For us, we can look to Proverbs 9:19, that we will learn these things. We can also look to Daniel 1:17 through 19, where it says that God gave them skill and knowledge and wisdom, and that they were 10 times better, right? The king found the children 10 times better than his own people. And then another one that I wanted to bring up, especially as we were talking specifically about cryptocurrencies, was Proverbs 8:12, which is, I, wisdom, dwell with prudence and find out knowledge of witty inventions. So wisdom can help us figure out what these witty inventions are. Like cryptocurrency is game changing. It's a very witty invention, and it could seem hard for us to understand what it is, but wisdom is there to help us figure it out. So I want us as Christians to know that we have help. And so another thing that we talked about to help you and help us with doing our own research was the 3M model. And this is what I spoke about, how I apply it to cryptocurrency, is we like to start with the macro view. That's the high level view. We went through looking at the white paper. We talked about learning who's on the development team. We talked about learning what's the tokenomics of it. That was part of the market cap with the economics. We talked about learning what's the problem, what's the solution that the crypto or the token, as we learned later, is trying to solve. Those are all things we want to understand to figure out how does this token fit in the whole ecosystem. And then we talked about market cap. I mentioned just a second ago, tokenomics. The important things for that is distribution and utility. Distribution is what we've all heard in multiple industries, supply and demand. How much is out there? How much people want it, right? Utility is what can I get for what I have? And we talked about inflation, how, there used to be a penny store, now it's a dollar store. And now the dollar store ain't even a dollar anymore, right? So what can I get? Exactly, it's $1.25. So what can I get with what I have? So that's where that tokenomics, the economics part comes from. And then we talked about momentum just a little bit, and that's really where we left off and where I'm going to pick up in the next slide. But momentum is what are the users saying, or what are people saying? What's the market sentiment? And a lot of times, multiple things are driven by market sentiment. What is everybody saying on the blogs? Whether true or false, that's the thing. Market sentiment doesn't have to be right. It just has to be the same, right? If we notice a trend, well, everybody's saying it's going to go up. For certain things, chances are you might have an opportunity to have things go up. And I talked about my Dogecoin experience. Any questions before we move on? So that was a quick review, but we talked about a lot of stuff, cryptocurrency. And y'all had a whole week to do your own research and come up with some crypto questions. All right, I have some later for us because I figured people would be too shy to ask, so I'm going to ask some. But let's go through historical performance. Here's the thing about crypto, and this was something we were just talking about earlier. It is extremely volatile. It is not uncommon to see 30% swings, in a couple weeks. You think you have $10,000 in your account, you're looking at $7,000. That's a 30% swing. That $3,000, that could hurt you. And when you count your money too, and you're making plans with that money, and you look, and it's not what you thought it was when you had just looked, that's risky for some people. So a part of doing your own research is figuring out historically what has the trend been. So I use that 30% as example. If you know that there's going to be a 30% swing, but that's going up still, you can then swallow that. Like you can, okay, I know this is just what it's going to be. It's going to trend down 30%, but it's going to go up 50. Then it's going to go down 30, but it's going to go up 70. Like you can know and see the trend is still moving upwards, even through that volatility. What a lot of people say in the investment industry is that historians actually make the best investors. And they say that because a lot of things are cyclical. A lot of things follow trends. And so what they look at is year over year. They look at month over month. They look at, well, what happened the last time interest rates were this level? What happened the last time CPI was like this? And a lot of that is historical. So when we have a historical view of what has happened, you can say, okay, the last time, let's say right now we're in inflationary period. The last time interest rates were high and we were in an inflationary period, this is what happened. And so you can see if there's a pattern. So now you can determine, okay, there's a pattern here. This is probably where things are going. And this is what everybody does, because nobody knows the future except Holy Spirit, right? But we have Holy Spirit. So when we're looking at these historical performance things, we can check with Holy Spirit. What is this saying? What does this look like? Is it going to be the same this time? And then we have to be able to test that. Just like as we learn to hear the voice of God more, was that God, was that not? We have to learn and take those steps. It's the exact same with our investments. So some of the action steps we can do, like I just mentioned, examine historical price charts so you can see trends and see if there's a pattern. And then any price fluctuations, periods of high or low volatility. Again, crypto is big on volatility, but if you understand that, okay, it's $100 today, but it's going to be $10,000 in 5 years, then you make a 5-year plan. You don't look at, okay, over the next 3 to 6 months it's going to change 30%. You know, you accept that. You know it's going to happen. You make a 5-year plan. So this is why that historical performance is helpful as a metric. So let's talk about market data analysis. I mentioned that momentum is really important, and it's not just in crypto. Let's take a brief pause from crypto, because some people may be thinking, okay, well, I'm not going to do crypto. This isn't really worth it. The reason I chose crypto was because, one, I believe that this is where the world is going. That's just that. But two, what you do when you learn how to do your research in crypto is applicable in basically every other investment arena. Right? So let's take the 3M of macro, market, and momentum. Let's think about stocks, right? You're looking at a company. You need to know what that company's doing, what problem it's trying to solve, what does it, and how is its products solving that problem. That's the exact same thing. We talked about looking at the development team. You look at the board of directors, you look at the CEO, who's leading it, what does the CEO think? Is it a smart CEO? Does that CEO make bad decisions? It's the same type of thing. The economics, you want to look at the stock. How much stock do they have out? Where's the stock going? What's the historical performance of the stock? It's a lot of the exact same things. Momentum is very big. Think about when everybody was talking about Tesla. Everybody's talking about Microsoft. Everybody's talking about NVIDIA. What's happening? Stock is shooting up. It's a lot of the same thing. So the purpose of do your own research is to learn core fundamental things that as long as you get this base, you have somewhere to start with any sort of investment. That's also with houses. That's if you want to do real estate. That's also with gold, which or precious metals that we're going to talk about next week. That's also if you're trying to buy a business. That's all these things. A lot of these same sort of research attributes should apply across multiple industries. So don't just think, okay, how do I use this for crypto? Think, how do I use this to build my investment portfolio with God? So I wanted to take that quick. But let's talk about market data analysis. It sounds real fancy, but all we're doing is looking at the data and we're coming up with our own thoughts, our own hypothesis, right? What do we think is going to happen? What do we think we've seen? How can I understand what I see here? And the important thing that I have found with market data analysis is to ask questions. You ask this, it's really just like the scientific method. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but you ask a question, right? And then you look for the data. You look to see where it's at. You ask a question. Let's go with cryptocurrency. Okay, I want to invest in the most popular cryptocurrency that's the most stable. Okay, well, what is it? So then you research, what is the most stable cryptocurrency? What is the most popular cryptocurrency? And then you do your data analysis. You look at the price trends, right? And so what we want to do, this is why I put action steps in here if we go back to the prior slide. What we want to do, because it sounds really, it can throw people for a loop, but with market data analysis, we want to look and see what's happening currently. We want to start with the current view to see where are we, what is happening, where is it now? Because a lot of people will tell you, oh, I made 1,000% on my portfolio. Yeah, but the price right now ain't the price when you bought in, right? You know, where is it now? That's really important. And then we want to see what factors are influencing that. And again, this is crypto, but we're trying to learn how to do our own research. So what factors are influencing that? I mentioned momentum before. I mentioned supply and demand. A lot of that is the same across multiple industries. And if we don't know, this is where we can ask. When you have mature industries that have been around for a while, and crypto was what, 10, 15 years now? So a lot of people ask the same questions. So you can do stuff like Google, well, what factors drive the crypto market? And you'll see probably interest rates, you'll see probably inflation, you'll see supply, demand, you'll see momentum, stuff like that. But you'll have a place to start. So if you start with the question, then you can go along your research journey. Then another thing you want to think about, and we're putting this in crypto, but again, think about your full investment portfolio, is key competitors. What could come in and completely derail your whole plan? What competitor, whether direct or indirect, could come in and change the whole game? Now, obviously, the taxis weren't prepared for Uber. So sometimes you could think your competitor is the blue chip taxi company, you the yellow chip taxi company, but you have to look around and see, is there something, some technological advancement that can come and change the whole landscape? So those are the types of things you're looking for. Well, when you look at the factors, right, you say, oh, well, these ABC things are what drive the market. Well, if one of those changes, what could happen, right? Then you want to look at, when you're looking at those competitors and you're comparing, well, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses? And then you can see that tool or that investment opportunity that you're looking at, or that cryptocurrency, how is this better than that? Or how does this drive more value? And then you want to see, that's that last point, the unique selling points. Okay, well, all the other competitors have this, but this cryptocurrency does that. So this is where the value comes in, and this is why, okay, now I feel more comfortable putting my money in it. So market data analysis is extremely important, which is why I separated the where to find into a completely separate slide. And I have, now again, this is about doing your own research. So I'm giving you tools and places to start. These are not exhaustive lists of every single thing, but as long as you're able to understand what's happening, ask your questions, then you'll be in a good place, at least as a starting point. So where do you find this market data analysis? Like, people say, oh, well, I looked at this chart and that chart, and they pulled this technical analysis, and they looked at this data, and it can get a little bit confusing, but a few things you want to check out first. Remember, we talked about that 3M. I'm taking it back to that because I want to drill it, just 3 M's: the macro, the market cap, and the momentum. So the market cap, right, that's the total value of the cryptocurrency. We talked about it being only 21 million Bitcoin. That's something that's easy to find that you want to know. So you want to look at the current circulation of the price and the current supply, and you want to compare it to other cryptocurrencies, or, you know, and other things. So is this company bigger than that one? That's what we're asking with market cap. How big are you versus the next one? Then another thing you want to look at is trading volume or activity. One of the things I mentioned was momentum, right? How do you know, okay, you reading a blog and it seems like everybody's talking about it, but what's the data to show you that everybody's talking about it? You'll see an increase in trading volume. You'll see an increase in people actually doing transactions. So you want to see, okay, well, there was an increase over the last 7 days, but what's happened over the past year? So these are certain time periods you want to just look at to see, okay, is this a now increase? Is this a season? Does it always increase in December because people got a little extra money so they want to do something? That's important to know, because then you'll say, okay, it's going to increase in December, so let me buy now, and then in December I'll sell because I know it's going to increase. Those going back to the trends. So another thing we want to do is look for patterns and spikes in trading, right? A lot of this stuff is the same. I hope you guys are seeing the pattern that I'm saying here. You want to start with your basic macro mental model of, okay, this is what this crypto is. This is how it fits in the whole crypto sphere. This is what it's trying to solve. This is how many is out there. This is how many that will come. And this is how the money is supposed to work. Okay, now where's the data to support that? Right? So then the third one we want to look at is price trends. Again, it's a lot of this is the same thing, but you want to go and you can just, if y'all don't know the name of these sites, I can assure you Google is your best friend. Like I literally just was talking, I said, yeah, I think that thing started at $20 and now it's $100 some, but I wasn't entirely sure, right? So I just Googled what was the price in 2023, and then it gave me a whole graph of, well, this is where it was in Q4 2022, and I was able to see the price. So a lot of these things, once you have the question, just Google it and see, because a lot of times multiple people have the same question as you, especially when it comes to cryptocurrencies. So I want to make sure I said market sentiment before. Where do you find that? Like, how do you know, oh, this is what they said. Who is they? How do you, this person said they talking about 2 different days. What does that mean? Where do you find that information? So a lot of times, just like we can go on Facebook and we say, oh, y'all saw everybody was talking about Usher Super Bowl, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You go on the cryptocurrency blog, you say, oh, what's the top cryptocurrency blogs? And you can see the ones that have the most users, the most activities, and then you search whatever that cryptocurrency is, and then you read to see what people are saying. It's the exact same thing. Don't try to, I don't want to say let's dumb it down, but truly, let's simplify our cryptocurrency research journey. Let's make it simple. Okay, just like I can scroll on Instagram and see that a lot of people have sad emojis, okay, or angry emojis. Something just happened, people are angry about it. That's the same sort of sentiment that we're looking for. Are people frustrated as they're using this new and up-and-coming cryptocurrency? That means it's not user-friendly. That means it's probably not going to go too far, too long, unless something changes, right? So that's what I mean by market sentiment. You just want to look and read and see. You know, we got enough common sense to read a word to know if that's bad, if that's negative or positive. That's all we're doing. Let's keep it simple for ourselves. Another thing we want to do on the next slide, regulatory developments. And I'll tell y'all a story. So I told y'all when I started my crypto journey, I ain't know nothing about nothing. So my mom's old boss, thank God for Mr. Sterling, he told us, he said, y'all better get on this crypto thing. Bitcoin was he said Bitcoin thing more specifically. Bitcoin was $500. I thought I needed $500. I ain't have $500. And I was like, dang, well, I can't invest. Had I done some research, I would have learned you can just invest and you can get a portion of it. I ain't know that at the time. I probably would have a Lambo, you know how they say. But then some years later, it became like $1,500, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna just try to do something. Me and my mama and my aunties, we trying to scrunch up some money. Then we found out that you can buy partial. Okay, so then I'm talking to him again. I'm like, okay, well, I finally got me a little bit of Bitcoin. He's like, oh, well, did you look at Ripple? And I'm like, I've never heard of it. What is it? He said XRP. I said, all right, I'm finna go buy. Did I look it up? Nope. Did I research it? Nope. I just trusted what he said. Well, this is where regulatory developments come in. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the whole Ripple saga, but the thing about the fine line with crypto was SEC, the Security Exchange Commission, said, is this a security or is it not? That was a huge debacle. And they said, Ripple is a security. We're going to shut it down. I wasn't paying attention to any sort of regulatory developments because, again, I wasn't doing any research. I just heard somebody tell me, a trusted source told me this, and I put my money in it. I didn't know how to do the research. I didn't even, let's just be honest. I didn't really try because he said it, so I did it, okay? So what happened, they froze the sale of Ripple. I think maybe within the last 6 months. This was like this was pre-COVID when they froze the sale of Ripple, and I couldn't get any Ripple in and out. All my money was just sitting there. Now and here's the thing about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies. It's a global thing. So just because the U.S. said this is a security, people were still doing stuff in other parts of the world. So I could see the price changes, but I couldn't interact with it. So it's important to stay on top of regulatory developments. Now we don't have to. We don't have to treat it like the most recent court saga, which I won't name, like where we just staying glued to the TV to see what's happening. But just a check, because the government moves slow. So if something happens, ain't nothing finna happen for the next like you can read something and then follow up the next few weeks or the next month, and you can still stay on top of things. Regulatory developments are extremely important. Taxation, let's just real quick, I put taxation in there. You are taxed on your gains, just like any other thing. So those, again, but should crypto be different? I don't know. That's another regulatory development that we should pay attention to. Market news and events. So what we want to pay attention to is, are there any partnerships coming out? Because let's go back to some of the key things of crypto, right? It is decentralized. Most of it is open source. So you have multiple people talking about it. Multiple people can comment on it. Multiple people can develop it in different countries. So when you see partnerships and you see things happen where it seems like things are moving faster or something's happening, that's something we can pay attention to. How do we know it's there? Look at the market sentiment. Everybody's talking, oh, did y'all hear that such and such is with such and such? And people are talking about it. Any questions? That was a big rush through market data analysis, but I want to make sure that we're clear, because market data and data analysis is what's going to really get us in every single other investment that we're doing. Okay? You're going to have a test your knowledge quiz at the end of this. So let's talk about crypto innovations. And the reason I brought this up, obviously crypto is just, in itself, the tokens is all innovative, right? But there are two things that I really want to make sure we understand. And one is decentralized applications, and the other one is decentralized finance. So when we talked about crypto before, well, let me just tell you what those are. Decentralized applications are applications that run on decentralized networks or blockchains rather than being hosted on centralized servers. So you know how we have apps on our phone, right? Instead of you having an app on your phone, it's like an app in the cloud, but on the blockchain. So that means it can be accessed from anywhere by anybody at all times. The next thing is decentralized finance, a set of financial services or applications built on blockchain technology. One of the questions somebody asked last week was, who is the end user for crypto? And I said everybody. And I'm still sincere about that. The other thing I said, though, was it really helps those who are disenfranchised with the financial institutions, or they call them the underbanked. They don't have access to the same, they can't just walk into a bank and get stuff, right? This is where decentralized finance really makes a big difference, and I have an example about that coming up. But let's talk about decentralized applications, or DApps. There are 5. There are 5 things that we talked about when we went over the definition of crypto that I said were really important. Decentralized. If y'all ain't seen that word 10 times, you've seen it 20. I've said it multiple times. But that means, remember, that it's on multiple nodes. Because somebody asked the question, well, what if there's an electronic magnetic something or other, and then the computer shut down? There's no mainframe sitting somewhere that has it all. It's every single computer, every single app, every single device has the exact same copy of everything at the same time. Excuse me. The next one is immutable. We talked about how that means not changing, right? The third one is accessible. Anybody across the globe can have access to it instantly. Well, as long as you have internet connection, right? The fourth one is transparent. That means anybody can see every single thing that has happened back to the very first transaction. So a lot of people ask, oh, well, who is Satoshi, the person who started Bitcoin? Who is that? And they look at the transactions from Satoshi's wallet. They don't know who Satoshi is, but they can see all the transactions because it was the very first one. So blockchain has transparent information, just like they say a ledger, right? It's like an accounting ledger, an accounting transaction history to show you everything all the way back to when it first created. Like me, myself, I can have no idea what the cryptocurrency is. I can type it in and look back at every single last transaction of it. And then the last thing is that it's secure. Because it doesn't change, because it's on multiple nodes, because it requires a level of mathematic cryptography hashing, which I'll move on from that, but there's math behind it. It is extremely secure, right? So when we think about those 5 things, what does it have to do with an app, right? Like I have an app, like what does it have to do with it? What people have decided, or what people have invented, though, was these apps that could use those things to make stuff happen. And the important part is this first one, trustless transactions. A big thing when you're doing any sort of business with somebody is counterparty risk. You don't know if they're going to do what they say they're going to do. So you want some sort of contract, right? So, I'm on a contract with such and such. Well, what if they break the contract? What if they get a lawyer to come in and do something? That can't happen on blockchain. It cannot happen. Once the contract is there, it's going to be executed, period. So that's where these apps come in and these smart contracts, because there's no getting out of it once it's on there. You have to do, well, once all of the prerequisites have been made, that threshold has been set, it has to run, just like a code. So this counterparty risk is how it eliminates that. That's the security that people love and they trust, which is why so much money is being thrown into crypto and blockchain, because I don't have to trust you. I can trust the system. And then somebody might ask this question, because I asked this question myself: how I know I can trust the system? That's what and if somebody says, I don't got to trust you, I can trust the system, or I can trust this blockchain, how do I know I can trust that? That's part of doing your own research. How do we know that this is secure? That's one of the things you look at. Interoperability. That means that I'm on this blockchain, I'm on that blockchain, but I can make an app that works upon multiple blockchains. So this helps with collaboration. Multiple people can do different things on the blockchain. Next, tokenization and incentives. So you have an app. How do people make money from it? Why would somebody even use it? This is where the tokens come from. So it's hundreds of thousands of tokens. That, remember, we talked about tokenomics, the utility and the distribution. This is where it comes from. Because you have decentralized apps, now you can have all these tokens. All this stuff works together. So what they do is they can represent ownership, they can represent voting rights, access to specific things. And I'm going to give you a very good example towards the end. And then another important thing about these apps is open source development, which answers the question before: how do I know is this secure? You can literally look at the code. It's open source. Anybody can look at the code and see what's there, see what it's supposed to do. So if you have a smart contract, anybody can look at it and see, what is this contract supposed to be saying? What is this contract supposed to be executing? Now, you can add permissions to it if you want a private smart contract. You can do those sorts of things. But in general, 95% of these projects that we would be investing in, they are public, open source cryptos, open source tokens that we can look in and see, oh, well, the developer said it's supposed to do that. Well, I don't know. I can't read code, but I can look and see if it's at least some code written, right? And I can look and see, again, back to sentiment, what are users saying about this code, because it's open source. And another reason it's open source is because we want to build a trusted ecosystem, something that everybody can look at transparently and see what's happening and make it better. Just because I built something, you might have a better idea to make it better. That's the benefit of open source. So let's talk about DeFi, decentralized finance. An important thing about DeFi is that it can enable permissionless access. I don't know if anybody's ever had to fill a KYC or know your customer. This a KYC, you don't want to do nothing in finances with traditional money without having a KYC. It can get you in trouble with the SEC, right? But with DeFi, you don't have to do that. I don't have to know how much money you do or do not have, or where you get your money from, or how you got your money, or what you spend. I don't have to know those things with DeFi. This is extremely important because it builds in a lot of that transparent privacy. It is Bitcoin, cryptocurrency or blockchain is both transparent and private. It's a wonder, I'm telling you. So the other thing is liquidity provisions and yield farming. What this basically means is people can make money from it. So remember, I'm not trying to just give you the answers. I want you to do your own research. But the important part about DeFi is it introduces liquidity into the system. Liquidity means money's moving, money's flowing. I think my grandmama or somebody's grandmama used to say, oh, I'm house rich but cash poor. That's the opposite of liquidity, right? On paper, I got some money, but in my pockets, I don't, right? So liquidity is really important because you can actually do stuff with the money. And that's what DeFi allows you to do, because you can earn rewards. Another thing that's really important, especially for the banking industry, remember, this lowers the barrier of access into banking and banking industry, is it reduces costs and it increases operational efficiency. What does that mean? If you've ever tried to do a Western Union or wire some money or do this, do that, there is a cost. I think my last wire was like $20 or something like that. Doing it on DeFi is like 20 cents. It is a world of, and I say 20, it might be 1 penny. Like, it is a world of difference to send money and do financial monetary transactions via blockchain and cryptocurrencies. It is a world of difference. This is why so many banks and so many other institutions are putting money into things like DeFi, because the costs are just so much cheaper in comparison. And of course the efficiency, because you want to send a wire, it got to be before 4 p.m. And then they got to check this, check that, and then it might go through that next day. But it's immediate. It's practically instantaneous, even across the globe, as long as that other person has, internet or Wi-Fi. And then the other thing somebody asked last time, which is, where do we think this is going when you think about things like real estate, happening in the world, et cetera? Tokenization of assets. Blockchain has enabled us to have fractional ownership of an asset, and that information be stored on a blockchain. This is all DeFi. So this is why I said those two things, DeFi and decentralized applications, are so important to the future. This is why this is one of those things that, even though I said most people might see it high risk, I saw it as medium risk, because it's so important to the financial ecosystem of the future that I have to get into it somewhere. It's just extremely volatile, so it's still a bit risky. And where do you go? So you can have fractional ownerships for real estate, stocks, commodities, et cetera, and they can look like tokens it's just tokens on the blockchain. Before I go to examples, any questions? I felt like all I was doing was reading the slides. But the important part is understanding that this is a game changer. And I say it was. This is not, nowadays it's not new, right? Bitcoin been around 10, 15 years, so it's not new anymore, which is good for us if you're new to it, because a lot of those growing pains people have already gone through. And you can read articles after article, you can check FAQs. A lot of people have the exact same questions that you have. When you go on websites now, let's say you found a cryptocurrency, I'm going to use Ethereum because that's popular, and you look up Ethereum, there are so many articles on it. Whereas years and years ago, it was difficult to find. So now, because it's a bit more mature as an industry, you can find those articles, you can look up the market data, you can see the sentiment, people are talking about it because it's not new. All these things that we want to do now as we're doing our own research, we can do.
Hello, best friend. How are you?
Best friend. I can't hear you. Oh, there we go.
We're on. So that was actually going to be my question. I know we're going to do our market analysis ourselves, and you're preparing us so that we can do our own research. But just off the top of your head, are there any like user-friendly apps that you would recommend that you have used for us to start off as beginners? I know we're still going to do our research, though.
So, question about a beginner or easy-to-use, user-friendly app or a place to start. I would say Coinbase. Coinbase is very popular. Coinbase is known, Binance even, B-I-N-A-N-C-E, Coin Market Cap. So you can do a lot of research on that about what's happening to the market capitalization of a lot of these tokens and coins. So if you start with those three, I actually use Kraken, but that's a little bit more advanced. Kraken, K-R-A-K-E-N. If you start with those three, Coinbase, CoinMarketCap, Binance, I guess Kraken, you can really learn and see, okay, these are the top ones, this is what's trending, because you can see up to the minute price changes, because cryptocurrency is 24/7. It doesn't, like the stock market has a close, there's no start, there's no close. So you can see all these changes. So I would suggest starting with Coinbase for beginners, because it has, a beginner, it has practically any cryptocurrency you're going to want is going to be on Coinbase.
Second question, again, coming from someone who's learning this stuff. Mm-hmm. So the other thing I see all the time is like my 401k. They always send these things like, hey, you can manage your stuff yourself and go into stocks. Could we use like our 401k to do our own thing as far as like So we could go into...
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying yes. I'm hearing your question. I wasn't answering yes.
Okay, sorry.
So can you use your 401k? Some of them do. Some 401ks, I was going to say one, but let's not quote me. So some 401ks do allow cryptocurrency investments. And most of them, like I've used Fidelity, I've used Morgan Stanley, you can look in and see, do you allow cryptocurrency investments? Because people are asking, so it will be an FAQ. And if it's not, you can just do a little chat. I was going to say call. I don't like calling. I like to do a little chat bot on the side. Do y'all enable cryptocurrency investments? And the key is, a lot of times you might find if there's a basket or an index or a group of tokens or cryptocurrency type things that it invests in. So maybe it doesn't do Bitcoin, but there's a basket of it that helps diversify and de-risk the whole basket. So some of them are getting creative. Most of them do not. But some of the more popular ones do allow you to invest in cryptocurrency. And even when they say you can do the stuff yourself, like a self-directed IRA, stuff like that, there's still limits to what you can do. But a lot of times what you're looking for will be on their website. But I know some of them do, because one of the ones that I'm in, I don't remember which one, does do it. The caution is not as free. Well, let's talk about wallets. There are cold storage wallets. Just think, your wallet. Don't get it too complicated. It's like a wallet in your pocket that keeps your money. You have cryptocurrency wallets. They have cold storage wallets, which are not connected like the internet or anything, so people can't go in and hack it. And then they have the hot wallets, which are the ones that are connected. So you want to make sure that that's one of their hesitancies, is the volatility of the cryptocurrency as well as the security. So you want to make sure that whatever you get, figure out how to transfer it to your own wallet so that you have access to it at all times. And that's within even exchanges. Figure out what you want on the exchange and what you want in your wallet. So, you're welcome. Great question. So, okay, no question. Let's look at examples. Because it almost seems a bit theoretical. Okay, you can do these sort of, but where has that been used? What do people do? Again, this is not exhaustive. These are just 3 examples that I found and I thought would be useful for us in this conversation. So there's something called Chainlink, right? And it's a decentralized network that connects smart contracts with real-world data. And it enables them to interact with external information, APIs, payment systems, etc. What does that mean? So if you have a contract that says, okay, I made up one last week. Okay, we have our hand of the Lord coin, and when 50% of the people give a tithe, then this person will match that tithe, right? How will it know that 50% of the people gave the tithes? Does somebody need to feed them that information? This is where a place called think it's like a chain link. It links information. It links external information into the blockchain. So what it'll do is it'll be checking. It'll say, oh, okay, how many people gave the tithes? What percentage is that? Up, and feed it to the blockchain. Okay, so this is what I mean by you have something you want to do, and they have different apps to enable it. The other thing, I'm just going to say AAVE. I don't know if it's AV. I don't know if it's AVE. People be fancy. It allows users to lend, borrow, and earn interest on crypto assets. So, and it offers things like flash loans. So let's say I have 10 Bitcoin. I don't know the price of Bitcoin today, but let's say it's 50,000. So I have 10 Bitcoin, 50,000. That's $500,000 sitting there. I can lend that out to somebody. So what do? If I had $500,000 in the bank, let's be clear, is lending out my money. We know that's how banks work. This is like us being the bank. So now I have this crypto sitting in here, and people can lend and borrow off of it. But it's tied to a smart contract to make sure I don't actually lose my money. Somebody borrowed the money from me and they didn't return it. This is where the transparency is there, the security is there. This is where all that stuff that I mentioned before, this is where all that comes into play. Why would I want to do that? And I don't know you. Why would I want you to lend my money? I don't need to know you. It eliminates the counterparty risk. I don't need to know you. I don't need the KYC. I don't need to know how much. Did the blockchain verify that what you said is true? That's what I would need to trust. So this is where, though, a lot of those words I mentioned before, this is why it's coming up as important things later. So another one is synthetics. It enables the creation and trading of synthetic assets on the blockchain. Now, I'm not saying go invest in these three, but I know that these three we can see, oh, okay, this is how you would use it. So what it would mean is, okay, I may not have an actual Bitcoin, but I have a synthetic Bitcoin. So if this were a real Bitcoin, I'm going to trade it like such and gain interest this way and then give back the synthetic Bitcoin. So they have so many apps and so many ways that you can have real world use cases. But the important part is those 5 things we mentioned. It's decentralized, it's trustless, it's transparent, right? So all those things is secure, it's immutable. This is where it all comes in. This is why they have these apps, because of all these things in the blockchain enabling it. So I had an example for y'all. We're going to go to this next slide. And this will show if you were paying attention. No, I'm joking. Well, not really, actually. So y'all remember last time I said, oh, well, if we had a Hand of the Lord coin and the tithes or whatever. I said, what if we did have a Hand of the Lord coin? What would that look like? So this I wanted to tie in together what we've been talking about. So we have a Hand of the Lord international coin, a holy coin. Didn't that just work out so cute? I said, look at that. I said, okay. No pun intended. I said, okay, we got our holy coin, our Hand of the Lord international coin. So now we're going through an example of tokenization of assets, because that was a big one. I don't know if you all remember me explaining it, but it is taking real world assets and turning it into tokens on the blockchain, okay? And remember, I also said that this really helps the underprivileged, underserved via the financial industry. So I hope this is an example to solidify that and to help us look outside of, well, let me just invest in Bitcoin because I think the price is going to go up. Help us see what's really happening in the world with these tokens so that we're not left behind. So what do we do first? First, we create the token. We have a holy coin. Then, remember we talked about the white paper. What are we trying to do here? And what problem are we trying to solve? We want to buy that motel next door, right? And I guess if you're online, there's a motel next door within walking distance, right? So let's say that motel is $5 million. Somebody did the research. Somebody said it's $5 million. So we said, okay, we're going to use $5 million to buy with holy coins to buy this motel. Without blockchain, what will we do? We do like a building fund, and we try to get a loan from the bank and raise some money and this and this. Here's how it works differently with blockchain. Now, I say the motel, but there are other initiatives we could do: support local businesses, educational resources, et cetera. Fund mission trips, right? Okay. So we said we need $5 million worth of tokens. So we don't sell the tokens. This goes back to tokenization, distribution, and utility. How many are we going to sell, right? Well, let's say we're going to sell 1 million coins for $5 each. We felt like folks would give $5, so we're going to do that. Contrarily, we could have done $1. Like, we could have broke this up any sort of ways, but that's the kind of question you ask. Why are they doing 1 million for $5? Maybe you think $5 is too much and we should do it at $1 for a lower barrier to entry. People have more coins. Those are the sorts of questions that you have to think, right? So think, we're trying to buy this motel for $5 million. We have 1 million coins at $5 each. That's the 5 million. The next step, this is where the blockchain is important. Now we need a contract, because we're going to just give our $5 or we want to see something, right? This smart contract will govern what happens with the money. Money cannot be released unless certain thresholds and certain criteria have been met. That's remember we went over that example. That's the benefit of the smart contract. So then you might think, well, how will I know that these criteria have been met? So you see how when we're going through this example, ask yourself these questions. Now, this is why I wanted to give this real world example, so we can, did any other question come up? So I thought to myself, well, how do I know what they do with the money? Any other question come up besides what they doing with the money? How? Then we make a purchase. Did they ever actually buy it? How do I get my money back? How much money am I going to get, right? These are all questions that you need to ask when you're doing any sort of investment, right? So let's take it to the blockchain with this example. First question, did they actually purchase it? There is a smart contract that, I want to say that's what AAVE did. Well, one of these there's a smart contract or a decentralized app that keeps you know how you do the title searches? And it keeps the proof of ownership. So once that proof of ownership is on the blockchain, everybody can see it, because remember, the blockchain is public and transparent. So if they didn't buy it, ain't no title there. We ain't got to hire nobody to do a title search. We can be our own title searchers and check on the blockchain, did they actually buy it? And how much did they buy it for? All this stuff is on the blockchain. I can check on my own. I don't have to wait for somebody to give me an update. It's on the blockchain. So then somebody said, well, when I'm going to get my money back? That's part of the distribution and utility. Maybe, this was something I thought about as I was coming up with this example, maybe I don't want my money back. This is a motel. Somebody need to rent it, right? Maybe this would just be residual income. And so maybe what I instead want to know is, okay, what is my percentage of this hotel ownership? So how much am I going to get every month or every quarter or something like that? All of that is in the contract, that smart contract, and all of that is public, transparent information. Now, not Joe Blow off the street. You might want to make that within like a hand of the Lord public, so anybody like that. Or you might want to make it completely public so that anybody can buy a holy coin. That's all up to the people who develop it. So those are the questions you want to ask. Who can see who can see how much money I made, right? Who can see? Now, they may not see how much money you made, but they can see how much money was made because this is public. So those are all questions that, just like if this were a real project, same sorts of questions you ask. So then let's say they buy it and they say, okay, well, we need to renovate it. Well, why didn't you put that in the first $5 million? That might be something you ask. So these are the same thing, going back to the crypto. Oh, they need to raise funds again. Well, why you need to raise funds again? Did you not anticipate that this would happen? Okay. But let's say we need to renovate it so we can put it fit for use. Anything that happens, how do they get the money off the blockchain? You can put in permissions so that you can only take, let's say whoever's actually doing the purchasing, can only take money out if 75% of the people vote, yes, we want to put the money on that. This goes back to the importance of tokens and governance, and you can allow different things with the contract. They're getting real flexible. I say 75%, it could be 10%, it could be 5%. And then we can go back to tokens, right? One of the things I said was that you wanted to be fair, right? I don't know if y'all remember that we talked about tokens when you're looking at the distribution, you want to be fair. What does that mean? That means, I'm going to use Pastor as an example because he's Pastor. Let's say Pastor made the holy coin, and Pastor got 90% of the coins. Well, then dang, he making all the decisions because he got 90%. That's what you want to look at in the distribution, because how fair is it? And what is fair to you? It might be fair to you that he's doing 90% because he's doing all the work, and you just want your 10% cut. That might be fair to you. Those are the things you look at. So you want to see, okay, well, anybody can get the tokens. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean everybody who has one account means one vote, or 10 tokens means 10 votes? The more tokens, more votes, or just each person gets a vote, or some mixture of the two? How is that? That's important, because I want to know where my money's going, right? But this is how you can take a real world project, raise $5 million, and then determine how are people going to get their money back, because you can then say, that $5 million I raised will not be released until let's say the mortgage lender was already found. That mortgage lender says approved or something like that. They have to say approved. That information is fed through the blockchain. This is where an app like Chainlink comes into handy. It says approved. That information is fed into the blockchain. Then the money's released. The money may never touch the hands of the person who's actually initiating the project. I do not have to trust the person who's doing the project. That's the elimination of that counterparty risk that I mentioned earlier. I need to trust the system. Trust that, does this contract say what I want it to say? And then, can they get out the contract? No. Because once it's on the blockchain, as long as these thresholds are met, it will happen. So let's say, okay, well, we're supposed to raise $5 million, but we don't raise $5 million. We might then be able to vote and say, release all the funds back. We might then be able to vote and say, okay, well, let's lower it to 2.5 and then get another loan. Vote on interest rate. So this is where blockchain and decentralized finance has now enabled people. I have not spoken with a bank. Now, in that example, I said if we don't raise $5 million, but let's say we did. I ain't talked to a bank at all. I don't need a bank. Because what does really the bank do if you have your own money? Verify, trust, add steps into the process. I don't have to do those things because now I have the blockchain. So I want us to start thinking creatively. And this is not new. I just made this up last night. This is not new. People have been doing this, right? So this is why when she asked the question, who is it for? And I said, everybody. And I was sincere. Because it really is. As long as you can think creatively about ways to use it, you can use it.
All right, so this example of having your own coin, so you don't have to worry about if you're raising said funds, you don't have to worry about people being accredited investors. Exactly. So that takes that out of the equation. So because they're going from a coin, they're really investing in the coin. So anybody can get a coin without being an accredited investor.
Absolutely.
But you still can have that project that you're after, but you're not in trouble by everybody being accredited.
Absolutely. So he said, okay, can anybody get a coin or this is a $5 million project, $50 million project? A lot of times you have to have accredited investors. I think I mentioned a couple slides ago, permissionless access. You don't have to. That is the benefit of the way these things are working, the way it's moving. Now, this is why the banking system was like, okay, we need to control this thing because this is cutting us out.
Take them out, yeah.
But you got to think, that's why I said, who could this most benefit? It's actually two things. I don't know if somebody thought about this with this example. It benefits the top and the bottom. The bottom, because you ain't have access to this stuff anyway. The top, because now you have access to the bottom folks' money. Because who finna create the token, right? So people who have money can make a lot more money. And the people who didn't have access to these banking resources now can, have access to different things.
So one of the things that's throwing me off, as you see with the permissionless access, so I'm familiar with the KYC process. So the KYC is eliminated because blockchain does the verification.
Yes.
Okay. But how do we know said party put in the right information on blockchain?
You can't I don't want to say you can't put in the wrong information because you can't, but how do I describe? It's binary. She's like, it's there or it's not there. So first, what information is it that we're looking for? Do they have the money or not, right? The money's there or it's not there, so that's clear. The other part
Which
they want to
they're gauging the money that said party has on blockchain already,
right?
Not what they have in their account.
None of what their account does not matter.
It's what they have exposed blockchain to. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I could have $1 million in my bank account, but if I don't have it in my wallet to purchase your token, it don't even matter because the blockchain won't know that.
Right.
So all it knows is what it can see, and it can trace it back all the way to the beginning because it's immutable. So it can say, oh, well, when she started this on August 11th at this and such time, and she inputted in $100.
Right.
Like all that stuff, that is there.
Right. So if it's in the form of a wallet, then it has to be in the form of a coin. Coin's only.
Well, you can have cash in your wallet, but you can use your cash to purchase the coins. So a lot of times you use your cash, you put it into the wallet, and then you use that cash in the wallet to transfer to Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever the token is.
Okay, I got you. But that wallet is going to be that verification piece that blockchain is going after, which now causes us not to need the KYC. Mm-hmm. And if you're doing a big project, persons can invest in that project without being a credit investor because they're buying a coin.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
So this, oh man, we're on time, but this was a great example. I hope this helped y'all to see, because I made it up I said a holy coin, ooh, I like that. So I hope this helped y'all to see just the benefits and how big this is. And there are a couple other things I wanted to hit. Back to the one right before, governance. Token holders can vote. I mentioned that before, right? But what can they vote on? Who gets to vote? How does that vote work? All that works out in the smart contract. And here's the thing. You can have your lawyer look at it because it is public. Your lawyer, like everybody's lawyer can go look at it independently and determine what it says because this is public, right? I don't have to depend on you sending me a PDF file. I can go on the blockchain if I'm in London and look to see what us in Decatur here are doing. All right, so that's the benefit of having this public information. So then next one, project execution. I'm going to speed a little bit, but I still want to make sure we get it. The project execution, crypto, we're doing the church example, but cryptocurrency, they're solving a problem. Is this problem actually being solved? They're actually using the tokens to do what they say. Are they purchasing what they're supposed to purchase using the allocated funds? Are we getting progress updates? Again, this is where a place called like Chainlink is important. That's why I use them as the example. Because those progress updates, something needs to figure out what's happening. So we could have the builders or the purchaser or whoever's doing what work, you need to, anytime you do an invoice or anytime you do some work, upload some pictures to the blockchain. That way, you don't have to believe me. The builder said, here go the pictures. They did it. And it's uploaded, right? Or upload it here, and then the chain link. Come down there to the, you got to come to the mic. And then the chain link. And then the token utility, we might decide, okay, this is a good thing. We raised $5 million. We ain't expected. Okay, let's do another round. But do I still get the same vote? That's where that comes in. What if the system crashes? The system cannot crash. What the benefit of decentralized? Mm-hmm. Now this is, I'm answering this, but remember we need to learn how to do our own research. If I'm trying to figure out, okay, well, what could go wrong? That's what I'm thinking. Mm-hmm. What could go wrong? Okay, well, if the system stopped working, how they gonna know what's happening with what's gonna happen with my money? It's decentralized. That means every single computer across the entire world that can have access to can go on and see it. So unless everything that has a blockchain information on it crashes, which of course means we have a bigger problem than what's happening with my little money, it's not going to crash.
Because it's not accessible like a bank. That's why I'm asking.
But no, that's
with
the
your
opposite.
Bank,
it's the opposite. So a bank, you think, okay, oh, that's
you
accessible. I can touch it. I can just walk in it. Think of it. This is more accessible than a bank. It's 24/7. Mm-hmm. I don't have to go somewhere. I can open up my phone and look to see what's happening. And in case something's going with my phone, I can open up your phone because it's public and look to see. And if something happened with that, I can go to the library and open up and look to see. Anybody, anywhere can access it. It is extremely accessible. But you feeling like I can't touch it.
Right, that's my thing. Like with a bank, you open up an account, you have a debit card. I can go, hey, can't go to the bank 24/7, but I can go to this ATM.
You still have an account. So remember I mentioned wallets before? Nobody, you put your money in your account, you have your wallet. Ain't nobody finna take your wallet. Like your wallet's in your pocket, you have your wallet.
But the way America is now, they
think global. Okay,
yeah.
I'm glad she said the way America is. This is global. This is a worldwide thing. Most people making inroads in blockchain are not actually American.
I'm more so trying to figure out like how crypto could help my life. Like let's just say I'm going to the Louis store. I don't want to use my cash. I want to use my crypto. Like can you?
So there are different ways. So last week I talked about tokens. Mm-hmm. The thing about tokens is you can have cryptocurrency, you can have different utilities, and you can have different things that tokens can do. This holy coin you're not going to go and buy something with holy coin because it's a project that the funds are allocated towards.
That's what I'm saying. So it's more so project-based than...
Some of them are. You have things like Bitcoin that you can make purchases for, but a lot of people might say, no, I'm going to treat Bitcoin like gold. That's what people say. I'm going to treat Bitcoin like gold. I'm going to buy it at this price because I think it's going to go up, or I think it's a store of value, like an investment, and I'm just going to hold. I'm going to put my $1,000, and I think my $1,000 is going to be $2,500, and when it's $2,500, I'm going to cash out, and then I'm going to go to the Louis store.
Okay,
So,
it just sounds like a 401k, and I'm just trying to see.
You can think of it that way. You can think of it as an investment where I put the money in, and when it goes up to a certain price, I can take the money out. The benefit, of course, with the 401k, you have restrictions because you have to be like 59, and whatever the age range is, and then you have all the taxes and stuff. You have more access with cryptocurrency, so you can treat it that way. There are some that do. You can treat it like I want to build my bank. And that if you think it's going to go up, I'm going to put in this money now, and then in 2 years it's going, I've done my market research. I've done my analysis. I think that this is going to give me 1,000-fold return. So once I get that, I'm going to take my money out.
I'm just saying, I'm trying to figure out what is the benefit of crypto versus a 401k if it technically does the same thing.
It doesn't do the same thing. So let's go back to the do your own research, because I don't want to just be like, oh, I'm answer the questions. I want you to figure out how to answer your question. What you want to know is, why is crypto beneficial compared to traditional money? That's what you need to go look up. Why is crypto beneficial over traditional money? Now, I've mentioned multiple things like decentralization, et cetera, et cetera. Here's one reason it's more beneficial to me. It has higher returns. Name a 401k that gets you more than a handful of percent. Name a 401k that was 5 years ago. Still, that was $10,000, and then it became $60,000. You don't get those same sorts of returns in 401k. They have it a lot more regulated. So it depends on your risk appetite. For some, crypto is just too risky.
Yeah, and that's basically what I'm trying to get to versus an ERA, a 401k, a 401b.
For some, it's just too risky. For others, I can risk a certain amount. Right. 5 to 1. I might risk that 1 instead of the 5.
Can't banks fail?
Banks can fail. Banks will probably fail you before the crypto will.
And so that was my question. Cryptocurrency can fail, but banks can do the same thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, look at Silicon Valley Bank. Wasn't it this time last year? So, I mean, banks can fail. Crypto can fail. The benefit, at least of crypto, is it's transparent. You don't know a bank is failing until you see that bank fail. And then they try to tell you to get your money out. Everybody else done got their money out before you. At least crypto is transparent. And then the last thing I want us to look at, where over time, is the Bored Ape Yacht Club. The question she asked is, how I know, or what's the benefit of this to me? There's something called a Bored Ape Yacht Club. It's a collection of 10,000 unique NFTs, non-fungible tokens. We talked about that last week. And it's a series of just different apes with different characteristics, right? It launched in April 2021, so not even 3 years ago, right, for 0.08 Ethereum, and sold out within 12 hours. Less than 2 years later, the most expensive ape was sold for $3.4 million. So I want us to understand these sorts of returns we don't see a lot in traditional investments. Somebody decided that I'm going to create something, an ape, and I'm going to let you decide how we're going to make it uniquely to you, non-fungible. It's unique to you and what you have. And that was valuable to people, clearly. Even now, and this was pulled yesterday, there's a total of 9,998 NFTs minted, held by 5,496 unique owners, and has a total market cap of $649,375,948 as of yesterday. Because 3 years ago, somebody decided that they're going to give some unique apes and they think people going to buy it. We're in a different world. So remember our holy coin example? Now, we don't need accredited investors to buy that motel. All we need is $5 million worth of tokens and people to buy it, and then put it on the blockchain, and now we have smart contracts to govern it. So I want us to think creatively. It's in a whole different world. So we're a little over time, but thank you so much for your attention and your questions. I know that I should have did that example first, because that woke everybody up, huh? But thank you again, and we're going to have just a couple of announcements.
All right, let's give Miss Tiffany a hand. Another successful week. We have one more week left. One more week left, so please remember to join us next Wednesday. And that's it. You guys enjoy your evening, and we will see y'all Sunday.